insoluble problem, major crisis. Both stepmothers want their names on the wedding invitations. Catherine adores her stepmother, who more or less brought her up. She wants her name on the invitation. She wants it, and her stepmother is not anticipating, which is understandable because the mother is dead, not appearing next to Catherine's father. Whereas my stepmother, whom I detest, well, without question, her name should appear on the invitation, but my father won't have his name on it if hers isn't, unless Catherine's stepmother is left off, which is completely unacceptable. I suggested none of the parents' names should be on it. After all, we're not adolescents. We can announce our wedding and invite people ourselves. So, Catherine screamed her head off, arguing it'd be a slap in the face for her parents, who are paying through the nose for the reception, and particularly for her stepmother, who's gone to so much trouble when it isn't even her daughter. And I finally let myself be persuaded, totally against my better judgment, because she wore me down. I finally agreed that my stepmother, whom I detest, who's a complete bitch, will have her name on the invitation. So I called my mother to warn her. Mother, I said, I've done everything I can to avoid this, but we have absolutely no choice. Colette's name has to be on the invitation. She said, if Colette's name is on the invitation, then take mine off. Mother, I said, please, I beg you. Don't make things even more difficult. She said, how dare you suggest my name is left to float around the card on its own as if I were some abandoned woman. Below Colette, who'd be clamped onto your father's name like a limpet. I said to her, Mother, please, I have friends waiting for me. I'm going to hang up and we can just discuss all this tomorrow after a good night's sleep. She said, why isn't I always an afterthought? What are you talking about, Mother? You're not always an afterthought. Of course I am. And when you say don't make things even more difficult, what you really mean is everything's already been decided. Everything's been organized without me. Everything's been cooked up behind my back. And all this, she said, and get this, in aid of an event, the importance of which I am having some trouble grasping. I said to her, Mother, I have friends waiting for me. That's right, there's always something better to do. Anything's more important than I am. Goodbye. And she hung up. Catherine, who was standing right next to me, but hadn't heard her side of the conversation, said, what did she say? I said she doesn't want her name on the invitation with Colette, which is understandable. I'm not talking about that. What did she say about the wedding? Nothing. You're lying. I'm not, Kathy, I promise you. She just doesn't want her name on the invitation with Colette. I'll call her back and tell her when your son's getting married, you rise above your vanity. Well, you could say the same thing to your stepmother. That's got nothing to do with it, Catherine child. It's me. I'm the one who's insisting your name is on it. It's not her. The poor thing, she's tact personified. If she knew the problem this was causing, she'd be down on her knees begging for her name to be taken off the invitation. Now call your mother. So I called her back. By now I'm in shreds. Catherine's listening on the extension. John, my mother says, up to now you've conducted your affairs in the most chaotic way imaginable. And just because, out of the blue, you've decided to embark on matrimony, I find myself obliged to spend all afternoon and evening with your father, a man I haven't seen for 17 years, and to whom I was not expecting to have to reveal my hip size and puffy cheeks. Not to mention Colette, who, incidentally, I may tell you, according to Felix Perlari, has now taken up bridge. My mother always played bridge. I can see how that can't be helped, but on the invitation, the one item that everyone is going to receive and examine, I insist on making a solo appearance. Catherine, who was listening on the extension, shakes her head and screws up her face in disgust. Mother, I say, why are you so selfish? I'm not selfish. I am not selfish, John. You're not going to start, too. You're not going to be like May Romero this morning and tell me that I have a heart of stone, that everyone in the family has a heart of stone. That's what May Romero said this morning. She's gone completely insane, by the way. When I refused to raise her pay to $20 an hour cash, she insisted that everyone in the family had a heart of stone when she knows perfectly well about poor Andre's pacemaker. You haven't even bothered to drop him a line. Yes, that's right. Very funny. Everything's a joke to you. I'm not the one who's being selfish, John. You've got a lot to learn about life, but go on, darling. Go ahead, go ahead. Go and meet your precious friends.
Then what?
Then nothing. Nothing's been resolved. I hung up. Mini drama with Catherine cut short because I was late.
Why do you let yourself be fucked over by all these women?
Why do I let myself be fucked over? I don't know. They're all insane.
You've lost weight.
Of course I have. 10 pounds purely through stress.